A caliphate is a form of Islamic government led by a caliph, a person considered a political and religious successor to the Islamic prophet, Muhammad, and a leader of the entire Muslim community. The Rashidun Caliphs, who directly succeeded Muhammad as leaders of the Muslim community, were chosen through shura, a process of community consultation that some consider an early form of Islamic democracy. During the history of Islam after the Rashidun period, many Muslim states, almost all of them hereditary monarchies, have claimed to be caliphates. Even though caliphates were thought to go back to Muhammad, they were not thought of as having the same prophetic power as he did. The Sunni branch of Islam stipulates that, as a head of state, a caliph should be elected by Muslims or their representatives. Followers of Shia Islam, however, believe the caliph should be an imam chosen by God from the Ahl al-Bayt. Etymology. Before the advent of Islam, Arabian monarchs traditionally used the title Malik, or another from the same root. The term caliph derives from the Arabic word khalifa, which means successor, steward, or deputy, and has traditionally been considered a shortening of either the term Caliphate Allah or Caliphate Rasul Allah. However, studies of pre-Islamic texts suggest that the original meaning of the phrase was successor selected by God, Rashidun Caliphate. Succession to Muhammad. In his book The Early Islamic Conquests, Fred Donner argues that the standard Arabian practice at the time was for the prominent men of a kinship group, or tribe, to gather after a leader's death and elect a leader from amongst themselves. There was no specified procedure for this shura or consultation. Candidates were usually, but not necessarily, from the same lineage as the deceased leader. Capable men who would lead well were preferred over an ineffectual heir. Sunni Muslims believe and confirm that Abu Bakr was chosen by the community and that this was the proper procedure. Sunnis further argue that a caliph should ideally be chosen by election or community consensus. Shia Muslims believe that Ali, the son-in-law and cousin of Muhammad, was chosen by Muhammad as his spiritual and temporal successor as the Mawla of all Muslims at a place called Al-Ghadir Qum. Here Muhammad called upon the around 100,000 gathered returning pilgrims to give their bay'ah to Ali in his very presence and thenceforth to proclaim the good news of Ali's succession to his leadership to all Muslims they should come across. The caliph was often known as Amir al-Mu'minin. Muhammad established his capital in Medina. After he died, it remained the capital during the Rashidun period, before al-Kufa was reportedly made the capital by Caliph Ali ibn Abi Talib. At times in Muslim history there have been rival claimant caliphs in different parts of the Islamic world, in divisions between the Shia and Sunni communities. According to Sunni Muslims, the first caliph to be called Amir al-Mu'minin was Abu Bakr, followed by Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second of the four rightly guided caliphs. Uthman ibn Affan and Ali ibn Abi Talib also were called by the same title, while the Shia consider Ali to have been the only truly legitimate caliph of these four men. After the first four caliphs, the caliphate was claimed by dynasties such as the Umayyads, the Abbasids, and the Ottomans, and for relatively short periods by other, competing dynasties in Al-Andalus, North Africa, and Egypt. After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Mustafa Kemal officially abolished the system of caliphate in Islam as part of his secular reforms and founded the Republic of Turkey. In 1923, the kings of Morocco still label themselves with the title Amir al-Mu'minin for the Moroccans, but lay no claim to the caliphate. Some Muslim countries, including Somalia, Indonesia and Malaysia, were never subject to the authority of a caliphate, with the exception of ACEH, which briefly acknowledged Ottoman suzerainty. Consequently, these countries had their own local sultans or rulers who did not fully accept the authority of the caliph. Rashidun Caliphs Abu Bakr Siddiq, the first successor of Muhammad, nominated Umar as his successor on his deathbed. Umar ibn Khattab, the second caliph, was killed by a Persian named Piruz Nahavandi. His successor, Uthman ibn Affan, was elected by a council of electors. Uthman was killed by members of a disaffected group. Ali then took control but was not universally accepted as caliph by the governors of Egypt, and later by some of his own guard. He faced two major rebellions and was assassinated by Abd al-Rahman, a Kharijite. Ali's tumultuous rule lasted only 5 years. This period is known as the Fitna, or the First Islamic Civil War. The followers of Ali later became the Shia minority sect of Islam and reject the legitimacy of the first 3 caliphs. The followers of all 4 Rashidun caliphs became the majority Sunni sect. Under the Rashidun, each region of the Caliphate had its own governor. Muawiyah, a relative of Uthman and governor of Syria, succeeded Ali as caliph. Muawiyah transformed the Caliphate into a hereditary office, thus founding the Umayyad dynasty. In areas which were previously under Sassanid Persian or Byzantine rule, the caliphs lowered taxes, provided greater local autonomy, greater religious freedom for Jews, and some indigenous Christians, and brought peace to peoples demoralized and disaffected by the casualties and heavy taxation that resulted from the decades of Byzantine Persian warfare. Ali's caliphate and the rise of the Umayyad dynasty. Ali's reign was plagued by great turmoil and internal strife. Ali was faced with multiple rebellions and insurrections. The primary one came from a misunderstanding on the part of Muawiyah, the governor of Damascus, marking the beginning of the end of the caliphs. The Persians, taking advantage of this, infiltrated the 2 armies and attacked the other army, causing chaos and internal hatred between the companions at the Battle of Siffin. The battle lasted several months, resulting in a stalemate. In order to avoid further bloodshed, Ali agreed to negotiate with Muawiyah. This caused a faction of approximately 4,000 people that would be known as the Kharijites to abandon the fight. After defeating the Kharijites at the Battle of Nahrawan, Ali was later assassinated by the Kharijite Ibn Muljam. Ali's son Hassan was elected as the next caliph, but handed his title to Muawiyah a few months later. Muawiyah became the 5th caliph, establishing the Umayyad dynasty, named after the great-grandfather of Uthman and Muawiyah, Umayya ibn Abd Shams. Umayyad Caliphate. Under the Umayyads, the Caliphate grew rapidly in territory, incorporating the Caucasus, Transoxiana, Sind, the Maghreb and most of the Iberian Peninsula into the Muslim world. At its greatest extent, the Umayyad Caliphate covered 5.17 million square miles, making it the largest empire the world had yet seen, and the 6th largest ever to exist in history. Geographically, the empire was divided into several provinces, the borders of which changed numerous times during the Umayyad reign. Each province had a governor appointed by the caliph. However, for a variety of reasons, including that they were not elected by shura and suggestions of impious behavior, the Umayyad dynasty was not universally supported within the Muslim community. Some supported prominent early Muslims like al-Zubair, others felt that only members of Muhammad's clan, the Banu Hashim, or his own lineage, the descendants of Ali, should rule. There were numerous rebellions against the Umayyads, as well as splits within the Umayyad ranks. Allegedly, Shim ibn Thil-Jawshan killed Ali's son Hussein and his family at the Battle of Karbala in 680, solidifying the Shia-Sunni split. Eventually, supporters of the Banu Hashim and the supporters of the lineage of Ali united to bring down the Umayyad in 750. However, the Shi'ite Ali, the party of Ali, were again disappointed when the Abbasid dynasty took power. As the Abbasids were descended from Muhammad's uncle, Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib, and not from Ali. Abbasid Caliphate. In 750, the Umayyad dynasty was overthrown by another family of Meccan origin, the Abbasids. Their time was marked by scientific, cultural, and religious prosperity. Islamic art and music also flourished significantly during their reign. Their major city Baghdad began to flourish as a center of knowledge, culture, and trade. This period of cultural fruition ended in 1258 with the sack of Baghdad by the Mongols under Hulagu Khan. The Abbasid Caliphate had, however, lost its effective power outside Iraq already by c. 920. By 945, the loss of power became official when the Buyids conquered Baghdad and all of Iraq. The empire fell apart and its parts were ruled for the next century by local dynasties. In the 9th century, the Abbasids created an army loyal only to their caliphate, composed predominantly of Turkic Cuman, Circassian, and Georgian slave origin known as Mamluks. By 1250 the Mamluks came to power in Egypt. The Mamluk army, though often viewed negatively, both helped and hurt the caliphate. Early on, it provided the government with a stable force to address domestic and foreign problems. However, creation of this foreign army and al-Mutasim's transfer of the capital from Baghdad to Samarra created a division between the caliphate and the peoples they claimed to rule. In addition, the power of the Mamluks steadily grew until Ar-Radi was constrained to hand over most of the royal functions to Muhammad ibn Raiq. Under the Mamluk Sultanate of Cairo in 1261, following the devastation of Baghdad at the hands of the Mongols, the Mamluk rulers of Egypt tried to gain legitimacy for their rule by declaring the re-establishment of the Abbasid Caliphate in Cairo. The Abbasid caliphs in Egypt had little to no political power. They continued to maintain the symbols of authority, but their sway was confined to religious matters. The first Abbasid caliph of Cairo was al-Mustanzir. The Abbasid Caliphate of Cairo lasted until the time of al-Mutawakkil III, who ruled as caliph from 1508 to 1516. Then he was deposed briefly in 1516 by his predecessor al-Mustamzik, but was restored again to the caliphate in 1517. The Ottoman Sultan Selim I defeated the Mamluk Sultanate, and made Egypt part of the Ottoman Empire in 1517. Al-Mutawakkil III was captured together with his family and transported to Constantinople as a prisoner where he had a ceremonial role. He died in 1543, following his return to Cairo. Parallel caliphates to the Abbasids, the Abbasid dynasty lost effective power over much of the Muslim realm by the first half of the 10th century. The Shia Ubaydallah al-Mahdi Billah of the Fatimid dynasty, which claimed descent from Muhammad through his daughter, claimed the title of caliph in 909, creating a separate line of caliphs in North Africa. Initially controlling Algeria, Tunisia and Libya, the Fatimid caliphs extended their rule for the next 150 years, taking Egypt and Palestine, before the Abbasid dynasty was able to turn the tide, limiting Fatimid rule to Egypt. The Fatimid dynasty finally ended in 1171. The Umayyad dynasty, which had survived and come to rule over Al-Andalus, reclaimed the title of caliph in 929, lasting until it was overthrown in 1031. Fatimid Caliphate. The Fatimid Caliphate was an Ismaili Shiite caliphate that spanned a vast area of the Arab world. Originally based in Tunisia, the Fatimid dynasty extended their rule across the Mediterranean coast of Africa, and ultimately made Egypt the center of their caliphate. At its height, in addition to Egypt, the caliphate included varying areas of the Maghreb, Sicily, the Levant and Hijaz. The Fatimids established the Tunisian city of Mahdia and made it their capital city, before conquering Egypt, and building the city of Cairo in 969. Thereafter, Cairo became the capital of the caliphate, with Egypt becoming the political, cultural, and religious center of the state. Islam scholar Louis Massignon dubbed the 4th century or 10th century CE as the Ismaili century in the history of Islam. The term Fatimite is sometimes used to refer to the citizens of this caliphate. The ruling elite of the state belonged to the Ismaili branch of Shi'ism. The leaders of the dynasty were also Shia Ismaili imams, hence, they had a religious significance to Ismaili Muslims. They are also part of the chain of holders of the office of Caliph, as recognized by some Muslims. Therefore, this constitutes a rare period in history in which the descendants of Ali and the Caliphate were united to any degree, excepting the final period of the Rashidun Caliphate under Ali himself. The Caliphate was reputed to exercise a degree of religious tolerance towards non-Ismaili sects of Islam as well as towards Jews, Maltese Christians, and Coptic Christians. Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba. During the Umayyad dynasty, the Iberian Peninsula was an integral province of the Umayyad Caliphate ruling from Damascus. The Umayyads lost the position of caliph in Damascus in 750, and Abd ar-Rahman I became emir of Córdoba in 756 after 6 years in exile. Intent on regaining power, he defeated the existing Islamic rulers of the area who defied Umayyad rule and united various local fiefdoms into an emirate. Rulers of the emirate used the title emir or sultan until the 10th century. When Abd ar-Rahman III was faced with the threat of invasion by the Fatimids, to aid his fight against the invading Fatimids, who claimed the caliphate in opposition to the generally recognized Abbasid Caliph of Baghdad, Abd ar-Rahman III claimed the title of caliph himself. This helped Abd ar-Rahman III gain prestige with his subjects, and the title was retained after the Fatimids were repulsed. The rule of the Caliphate is considered as the heyday of Muslim presence in the Iberian Peninsula, before it fragmented into various taifas in the 11th century. This period was characterized by a remarkable flourishing in technology, trade and culture. Many of the masterpieces of Al-Andalus were constructed in this period. Almohad Caliphate. The Almohad Caliphate was a Moroccan Berber Muslim movement founded in the 12th century. The Almohad movement was started by Ibn Tumat among the Mazmuda tribes of southern Morocco. The Almohads first established a Berber state in Tinmil in the Atlas Mountains in roughly 1120. The Almohads succeeded in overthrowing the ruling Almoravid and governing Morocco by 1147. When Abd al-Mumin al-Gumi conquered Marrakesh and declared himself caliph, they then extended their power over all of the Maghreb by 1159. Al-Andalus followed the fate of Africa and all Islamic Iberia was under Almohad rule by 1172. The Almohad dominance of Iberia continued until 1212, when Muhammad III, al-Nasir, was defeated at the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa in the Sierra Morena by an alliance of the Christian princes of Castile, Aragon, Navarre, and Portugal. Nearly all of the Moorish dominions in Iberia were lost soon after, with the great Moorish cities of Córdoba and Seville falling to the Christians in 1236 and 1248 respectively. The Almohads continued to rule in Africa until the piecemeal loss of territory through the revolt of tribes and districts enabled the rise of their most effective enemies, the Marinids, in 1215. The last representative of the line, Idris al-Wathiq, was reduced to the possession of Marrakesh, where he was murdered by a slave in 1269. The Marinids seized Marrakesh, ending the Almohad domination of the western Maghreb.